All right, guys, so I'm back again with another toy review. This is the Bay Area's only toy reviewer, Carl. And today I have DC Universe's Johnny Quick. All right, guys, so I'm going to level with you. All right, this guy isn't the best. And I'm pretty sure you guys can probably see that just from looking at him. And I'm pretty sure what you guys are going to know what my recommendation is for this guy at the end of this review. So this is Johnny Quick. For those of you who are unfamiliar with who this guy is, he is the Flash from an alternate universe. I don't want to say which one because I legitimately can't remember off the top of my head, but I know that in the comic book he was a big deal. He's incredibly powerful. He has all the powers of the Flash, except he uses them for evil. And what he does, he's very, very good at. He's a part of a evil Justice League from said alternate universe. He's their super speedster. There's also an alternate version of Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Firestorm, I believe, and there are several others. But basically, he is a part of the bad Justice League from an alternate universe. So before I go any further, I just wanted to say that I appreciate that DC made this guy. Because it's easy to get caught up on the bandwagon with the Batman marks and just making Batman and Superman figures because realistically, they are the only ones that make money. Well, not the only ones that make money. Let me correct that. They are the only two that make big money. And that's universally recognized by everybody. So to get a representation of this guy, excuse me, is a coup if you're a Flash fan like I am. And no, I'm not a Flash fan because of the television series. I liked the Flash years before the show even debuted back in the 90s. Because I'm dating myself. But as I've stated, this is a coup for any Flash fan. If you have a Flash collection... Okay, I want to say that if you have a Flash collection, this guy would be a guy that you want in your collection. Aesthetically, he's not pleasing, as you can clearly see. But before we get into that, because we'll get into it, but before we get into that, let's get into the articulation of this guy. Okay, so this is Johnny Quick. As you can clearly see, there's just... And I'm not a paint guy. Like, I'm not a paint guy. I'm really not. I couldn't tell you what a wash from airbrush, paintbrush, I couldn't tell you any of that. But I know enough to know when it doesn't look as good as it could. And with this guy, it doesn't look as good as it could. Because I've seen really good Flash figures. I own really good Flash figures. And whereas I'm happy I got this guy, as far as paint goes, and articulation, I don't know, maybe touching on articulation, you know, maybe individual results may vary, but I know mine had some issues and we'll get into that. But first, let's get into the articulation. Okay, so his arm does go around 360, but it's hindered by his vest here, which is a soft plastic. It's like soft goods, so it is a soft plastic. It will move out of the way just a smidge if you push it, which is really nice. He does have a bicep swivel, which is super smooth. As you look at that. And all his paint is not for me handling this guy. He came like this. And I'm not even saying that I'm not even saying that it's a deal breaker for me, because it's not. There are very few instances where I suffer from buyer's remorse because my collection, it's big enough for me, but it's small in comparison to other people's collections just because I don't collect any and everything. I'm very selective and picky about the things that I pick up. As I've said before, in some cases, I don't pick the figure, the figure picks me. So sometimes I'll be somewhere and be like, hey, that guy, and I'll pick him up. But, you know, in certain circumstances, there are certain figures that I do go out of my way to get. And Flash figures are some of them. Flash figures are some of them. A very, very small handful of them. But if it crosses my path, if I feel like buying it, then I probably will. And that's how I sort of gauge, excuse me, what I get. You know what I mean? I don't buy everything, but I just buy the things that I want. But as far as like articulation goes, the arm does the same thing, goes around 360, but it's hindered by the shoulder here. Bicep swivel, which is really slick. It's got a single elbow joint on both sides. On both sides. It's got a wrist hinge there. Wrist goes around 360. Okay, so before I even talk about this one broke immediately when I got out of the box. Now, if you look really, really close, you can see the glue that I had to glue his arm, or should I say, glue his hand to his wrist. So this one did have articulation like that one, but as soon as I got him out of the box, I took one twist and the fist just twisted right off. Needless to say, I was kind of upset, but I glued it back on, and you know, it works fine. You know, he doesn't have any additional set of hands, so this works out fine. It's fine. Even though, you know, I can't move his wrist, it's fine. It's just one fist. Most of the time he's going to be punching anyways. I glued it in a way so that way it looks good. So even if he does do a punch, it doesn't look terrible. Getting to his waist. He does have a waist swivel. Goes around all the way around. He does have a abdominal hinge here. You just get up underneath that. It gets you about that far, which is, yeah, okay. And then it gets you back about that much, which has got him doing the Fat Joe lean back right there. For those of you who actually watch these videos, who live in the Bay Area, you will understand that reference. Or maybe it's a worldwide song, I'm not sure. But his head goes around 360, but it's hindered a little bit by his collar. Yeah, see? It's hindered a little bit by his collar, but it does go around 360. His head doesn't go, I believe it's just on a swivel. His head doesn't go up at all, doesn't go down at all, and that's okay. His leg goes out about that far. It goes back about that far, which is hindered by his buttocks flap here. Let me stop twisting this thing around. It's hindered by his buttocks flap here. All right, so it doesn't go back that far. It goes back about that far, which is okay. You know, as long as it goes forward, that's fine because he's a character that runs. So as long as I can get that running aesthetic, you know, as long as I can get that running aesthetic, he looks fine. That works for me. That works for me. It may not work for everybody, but it does work for me. As far as these are really, really tight. They do swivel. These here, they do swivel. And I don't want to the figure came like a mess when I got it. So there's all these really tight hinges and twists, and I was just afraid to really do anything with the guy because I was afraid to break him. So there's a lot of things that in theory should work, but don't, and I don't want to push it and like break the thing. But these do twist, and maybe individual results may vary. Maybe yours is better than mine, but as it currently stands, like this thing doesn't work at all the way it's supposed to. You got a double jointed knee here. Go get you a back to about there, which is good. Same thing on the other side too. He's got a hinge in his ankle that gets you about right there. Get you up to about right there. And no rocker. Same thing, other side. Same thing. Now that that's out of the way, aesthetically, this dude's not pleasing. He's really not. He's not a good looking figure. Like all of this, I don't know if this is like a design choice or maybe I can't think that they would not paint this. Like this had to be a choice that they made. You know what I mean? I can't even remember if it was like this in the comic book. I can't even remember if it was this shade of red in the comic, but it doesn't look very good. And same thing with this silver paint here. This glossy paint. Not really a good look. It's really not. It clashes very much with the yellow. Now I can understand. Excuse me. I can understand if the whole thing was glossy. I can understand if this yellow was glossy here, this brown was glossy there. I can understand that. But it's just the red and it looks weird because you have like gloss, 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 and then it's dull. You know, and then you combine that with the fact this thing has a hard time like standing, and the joints are very like weeble wobble, but they won't fall down. And this is not me like, you know, I'm actually, let's see. I'm actively trying to, there you go. So a little effort, you can make them stand. With a little effort, you can't make them stand. That's fine. But, you know, like I said, it's nice to have a representation of Johnny Quick. I mean, even if this is the only one that we really get, we do have them. You know, and that's nice, considering they did make the other members of the, they're not called the Injustice League. I forget the name of the group that he's a part of. I forget the name of it. The Crime Syndicate. That's the name. The Crime Syndicate. Crime Syndicate. They do have other figures of the Crime Syndicate, so he goes in, he plugs in, fine with them. Based off of other pictures I've seen of those guys, they look better than him. The Ultraman, the Power Ring, the Superwoman, they all look better than him. But once again, I bought him because he's a representation of Johnny Quick, and I wanted a speedster to go with my Flash family of figures. If you don't mind the aesthetics, you can get this guy and not have any buyer remorse. Right? I'm not sitting here telling you that it's a great figure per se. And with the final verdict of this guy, I wouldn't recommend, if you are somebody that's a stickler for paint and finish and gloss, you will not be impressed by this guy. If you want this guy for aesthetics, I wouldn't recommend that you get him at all, in the slightest. Unless you are buying the rest of the Crime Syndicate and you want to complete your team, I wouldn't recommend buying this guy individually by itself. Unless you are a diehard Flash fan, like I am. Pre the show. If you're a diehard Flash fan, then you'll be pleased with this guy, but I have to warn you. If you do purchase this guy, there are going to be some things about him that may or may not work correctly. So my recommendation is to handle him with care. He's very fragile and he breaks very, very easily. So if you're okay with having a figure that is sort of high maintenance as far as like the way you handle them, if you don't handle your toys gently, then this is not the guy for you. If you're a diehard fan, yeah, if you're just somebody that just has to have a Johnny Quick figure, if that's just what you need in your life and you can't go another day without it, then I recommend that you pick him up. But if not, if you're just a casual fan, if you're just a casual DC fan, then I say pass. But then again, at the same time, we're not going to get any other representation of this guy that I know of. Johnny Quick is not one of those guys that's just moving the bar as far as like merch. People know of this guy, but you ask any casual fan who Johnny Quick is, they don't know. They don't have a clue who he is unless you actually like read the comics. So pick him up if you like this guy. If you like the Flash, I say yeah. If not, if you're casual, then no. Save your money, buy a different Flash figure, buy a Flash figure with more articulation, that looks better, that has better paint, that's not going to break on you the second you get him out of the box. So, this is the video. I'm Bay Area's only toy reviewer, Carl, and I will see you guys next time.